Alright, what's going on everybody, it's Liam here and welcome to today's video on the channel. And in today's video, I have a new series for y'all here on the channel. Basically, this series will be how to play every school on Wizard101 at max level PvP. I will be covering max level because it is the primary league and the most popular league. And I will be starting off with Storm, which obviously is my main school. And I have hidden Marshall, I believe, 3 times, all of 5th age. Now, if you do want this series to continue, a like rating and a sub is always appreciated, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below, and what school we should do next as well. Again, if this video does perform well, I will do another one right away. But yeah, without further ado, y'all, let's get right into things. So first things first, I think it's important that we address the elephant in the room, and that is the fact of the matter that Storm is always been the worst school, at least at max level league, ever since the dawn of 5th age. So if you are a new player or just any Storm right now playing the school, don't feel discouraged. A lot of the time, it typically doesn't really matter what your moves are in the matchup because the school is just really bad and unbalanced right now. But if you do play damn near perfectly and damn near well, and stuff like that, you can honestly almost beat anybody on this school. So I think the format I'm going to go with in today's video is going to be me breaking down a couple of important things. Healing Storm versus Hitting Storm being the first one, the matchups you want to heal in, and I'll also be briefly breaking down each matchup and how you want to play and what cards you want to use in those respected matchups. So, Healing Storm versus Hitting Storm slash regular Storm. Now, Healing Storm has become a thing ever since we could run double shield pin, right? And obviously, use Dark and Stormy, very surprised, stuff like that. Now, Healing Storm on paper isn't bad in terms of value. The problem with Healing Storm is the fact of the matter that over half the schools right now can about 2-shot you. So in a meta that's so fast, Healing Storm cannot really excel very well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Storm really be good in the healing department once things slow down. But in a meta so quick right now, you're not going to want to focus on healing at all, hardly at all. You're going to want to pack maybe 1 or 2 Dark and Stormies in your deck here. And I will be providing my deck setup always as well. I packed 2. Again, I will talk about which matchups you want to use this in a little bit later on in the video. But primarily, as of right now, at the time you're recording this audio, you are going to typically always be better off just resulking and trying to out-trade your opponent. And in certain matchups, you might want to Dark and Stormy to make up for the fact that your health is so low. I really hope Healing Storm can get better in the future, but as of right now, if you want to get rank and, really play better and play efficient on a Storm, you just can't heal well on a Storm right now because your stats aren't there, and other schools just 2-shot Storm way too easily when they're not supposed to. So now that we cleared that up and we are all on the same page of Hitting Storm being the best way to go in the current state of Wiz, we will be talking about, obviously, deck setups and matchups right now. So I will be going through every matchup in this part, and I'm not going to go over the deck too much. I'll just show what I rock right now. I will say you guys can copy my deck if you want. However, I recommend this, again, if you want to copy my deck or another content creator's deck or a friend's deck, try it out, but pay close attention to what you're discarding, right, and what you're pulling. And then at the end of that match, whether you win or lose, be like, okay, did I pull X enough? Did I pull Y enough? Did I not pull this enough? Really pay attention and ask yourself those kind of questions, and that will help you become a way better deck builder. So that's my main deck, and that is my current side deck I run at the moment. It is pretty solid, and again, it's worked pretty good for me right now, even though Storm is pretty ass right now in the meta. So the first match up I am going to be going over is going to be all of Storm's bad matchups, which are going to be Ice, Death, and Balance right now. Now, I'm going to start off with Ice, which is your supposedly hard counter. Doesn't really feel that way, by the way, King's Isle. But Ice in this matchup, typically what you want to do is you want to shield a lot because Ice can struggle a lot against shields as well, right? And then you want to force them into a very one-dimensional playstyle. Now, what I mean when I say that is you can force them to have to want it or hidden bubble, and that's it. That's it. Then you can play around knowing that's their only two moves. And if they're gonna frostbite, obviously you can counter frostbite with Oni's attrition, which is a pretty solid counter, right? So shield a lot, try to run your opponents out of wantits, and keep in mind a hidden bubble and a wand is what's gonna be breaking the shields most of the time when you have that attrition in hand, obviously to counter the frostbite. So in this matchup, again, that's all you need to pay attention to is shield a lot, keep track of the amount of wand hits they use. They can only have 4. Predict the hidden bubbles, right? Try to get value. And then another thing I found that helps me out a lot is taking early game damage. So if you can get a bladed Triton off before they can do anything, you've already bridged the HP gap, and then from there, you just have to make sure they don't get, a buffed A-bomb. Try to let them only get an unbuffed A-bomb, and then crank up the pressure between their Abominable Weaver Shards with, Elf, Galvanic, Bubble, Blade, and really force them into a bad spot where your Ahsoka will outtrade their A-bomb. And if they are taking unbuffed A-bombs and you're doing this correctly, you will briefly actually start to bridge the HP gap and be ahead. And a lot of the time, you'll kill them before the third A-bomb comes into play, or right as they do the third A-bomb, and you're barely alive at the end. Now, this matchup, I would recommend primarily focusing on, again, shielding a lot, countering shields with Jin's Defense and Minotaur. Dark and Stormy is really good in this matchup as well. Buffed A-bombs, unbuffed A-bombs. The heal will heal off half of those. So you can heal off half of their shadow hit and obviously do quite a bit of damage. So this is a very solid card to use in this matchup. Again, if, don't absolutely discard everything only for Dark and Stormy. If you only have a Ahsoka, take the Ahsoka. But Dark and Stormy is a very solid card in this matchup, and I would definitely recommend using it. Then obviously, like I said, you're going to want to try to go and get an early hit with a King Artorias or a Triton to bridge that HP gap right away. And be sure to never dump all your pips, because if you dump all your pips, they can frostbite you with a bubble and a blade, and you can't attrition, and you're just really screwed. So be sure to manage your pips, take an early hit if you can, shield a lot, counter shields a lot, and really try to crank up pressure with hidden bubbles, elves, auras, and Dark and Stormy if you can. That's what you're going to want to do in this matchup. Next up, I want to talk about the Death matchup. Now, this is the worst matchup in the entire game, actually, right now, because Death is one of the most broken schools at max level, so it's really tough playing one of the best schools in the game when you're on one of the worst schools in the game, and then that school just absolutely dogs you because it's a counter matchup. But this one is not very easy to explain, I'm going to be honest. You just really have to play a lot of games to understand how to beat them. But Glacial Fortress, I found, is a lot better than Vexation, because Vexation typically comes down to ping pong, but if you Fortress, you can force them to overtime, and then they are playing into your hand, and you can attrition them and really cut down a lot of their damage. Again, you're going to want to shield and counter shields a lot in this matchup with sets and Jin's Defense and Minotaur as well. And you can Dark and Stormy in this matchup. I have won a couple times with it. Typically, they don't counter the heal because you just do so much damage that they're not worried about countering the heal. But I wouldn't rely on it like Ice, but you can do it if you want. It's not terrible. Typically, your Ahsoka is the better way to go. Now, this one you're not going to want to play for an early hit like Triton or King Artorias, because Death can drain, and drains are absolutely insane right now in the current meta. So if you are going to chip a Death, I'd highly recommend spamming Catalan in this matchup, and again, shielding a lot, countering shields a lot, and then basically just making it so they do not get that good of a Grim Reader, and you can get an opener Solka on them. And that's really all there is to the matchup. It's very tedious, whether you have to double wand, hit through a reader weakness, hidden bubble, elf, Catalan, fortress, and just counter it. It's a lot. It's very situational, very tough to win this matchup. I am like 9-2, I think, or 9-3 against like the best deaths right now in queue on my storm. Although I am warded, this is the one school I do ward to. Actually, I do not like words, as you guys know here on the channel, but death is so broken right now in the current meta. You kind of have to run word, so I do run this pet right here, as you see on your screen. So yeah, that's the strat, guys. Just really try to play well, counter their shields a lot, you know, make them try to OT you so you can attrition and get value. Don't let them get multiple buffed readers on you, and just try to get an opener Solka when they cannot obviously drain it back with a Dr. Vaughn's monster. Next up, we have Balance. Now, this is pretty much the most broken school in the game right now, and for the most part, you're not going to win this unless they deck fill, to be honest with you, or you superset with pin and a word. That is a pretty good way to beat them, but this one is pretty darn tough to beat. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. You have to basically pull everything you need right away, like, you know, a glacial shield, an ether shield, a blade, and what you're going to want to do is just blade, bubble, and then start farming the shad, because if they bubble fight early game with you, that's rounds they're not sending a Scales of Destiny to kill your entire health bar, right? They're wasting rounds bubbling and getting your shad, which is Rusolka, and losing when they could be hitting. So I would recommend trying to shield and weakness to Scales when you can. Blading and bubbling early game, obviously to farm a good early hit, or just a shad to take away their condition right away. If you do this right, typically they'll only get 1 or 2 Scales on you, but sometimes they can get like all 4 and kill you before you even get the shad, which is kind of why the school is broken. It really depends on how their deck works, and it's just not a favorable matchup at all. But if you blade early and bubble fight when they have an aura out to farm that shad and try to protect yourself, again with a weakness or set shields against the, you know, Hydra and the Scales of Destiny, you can have some success in this matchup. And again, I would highly recommend pinning, because you kind of have to with how broken the school is right now. A pin's not even going to do anything. It gives you like 5 resist. Like after the fact of the matter, your resist is so low, base resist. But I mean, it saves you like 200 health, I guess, which is better than nothing, I suppose. But yeah, that's what you got to do against Balance. Next up, I have Myth. Now, Myth is a tricky one. Now, this is a really bad matchup for you, because Myth is literally what Storm should be right now in the meta. Myth is the best offensive school because it does the same damage as Storm. However, it can convert every debuff to a buff, and it can stack, and it's tanky. So it's absolutely insane. Not to mention the free gambit you get that does literally anybody's health bar with the Jhin as well is pretty damn devastating and terrifying to play against. So again, we're going to take a page from the Balance book here, and we're going to try to stun block early here, maybe get a blade, and bubble fight early on to try and keep the Myth's pips low so they can't Jhin into a Calendar or Calendar into a Yaga. You want to keep their pips low and basically just, you know, make them play the way you want them to play, essentially, right? And a lot of Myths do not pack hidden bubbles because they are stacking. So if you do get bubble control and shield, it's typically not that bad, but you do want to keep a readiness skills ready for when they betrayal or delusion. And that's something important to keep in mind. When you do debuff a Myth with a shield, you have to expect that to be converted into a shield, right? A shield isn't a shield against a myth. It's gonna be a trap. So you have to think that turn ahead. Okay, my shield's gonna be a trap. How can I what can I do next to circumvent that or counter it? And typically what I do is I will Jin's defense their tri shields off. Let's say they have a elemental shield and a spirit shield. I will Jin's defense one off. They'll betrayal, and then I'll scales to knock off the second set and the 40 buffs off, and then they're kind of caught with their pants down, like, what the hell do I do, right? So that's a little tactic I do. I do it even, like death versus myth. I beat myths most of the time on my death with that tactic. It's pretty darn good. You can just bait them pretty easily, and a lot of them fall for it. So definitely do that. Jin's defense and have his skills up if they have two sets of tri shields on. Weaknesses typically get you Stone Colossus, but early game, if you can throw a weakness on and take like a buffed Triton for a buffed Stone Colossus, you actually will end up winning that trade. And sometimes you can attrition that Stone Colossus off a couple rounds later, and they won't expect it, right? If they keep spamming Stone Colossus, that's better than them going for like a Jin Yaga or Calendar Yaga. That is a way better scenario than getting Calendar Yaga'd or Jin Yaga'd, right? If you weakness them, you expect to get stoned. If you shield, you expect it to get turned into a trap. And a lot of it is typically just like a bait and switch game, again with the Jin's defense and the readying the skills. That's really all it comes down to. And all you really have to do here is just really try to get either a nice stun play or get the first hit off. Like if I'm trading a buffed Rosoka with a buffed Yaga, if I can put myself in the spot to take that hit first and hit again out of it, that is what's going to win you this matchup, is hitting first with about an even trade and having a follow-up that will kill them. It's pretty hard to 2-tap a myth because they actually have health and resist on their Scramble Wheel. And myths have a really easy time 2-tapping a Storm. So it is an uphill battle. It doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things, and that's why it is one of your worst matchups. Next up, Fire. Now, Fire is really good against Storm, actually, contrary to popular belief. Me personally, I'm more comfortable on my Fire playing a Storm than I am on my Storm playing a Fire. Now, this is because Fire can trap stack and actually gain value on you over time. And all they need is one fuel and a s'more, and you're dead, no matter what you do. So it's very, 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 very tricky. And regular Fire with Elephant as well, they can like Elephant s'more you or Elephant Ifrit Scimitar, and your entire health bar is just gone. So it's a very tricky matchup. One thing I've noticed is you just really want to have your trap counters and your stun block available early on. Maybe try to get a blade early. Don't bubble unless they bubble. And do not let them get an aura and bubble control, or you will lose that match a good 80-90% of the time, I have noticed. But a lot of this typically plays around Ifrit, Elephant, and that's really about it. That's all the matchup plays around. So just keep Ifrit and Elephant in mind when you're playing this, and try to obviously counter their traps if they're fueling, and bait them to shield if they have a set of fuels on you and you're safe, so you can knock off the shield and the fuel in the same turn, and obviously get the tempo back as well. Like the myth example, it's a very good tactic. This one, again, same principle as myth. If you can try to take an even trade with them, but be hitting first so you can 2-tap them before they kill you, it is pretty good. Again, it's hard though because they have way more health and more resist than you, so they have an easier time 2-shotting you than you do 2-shotting them right now in the meta, unfortunately, but that is kind of what you have to do. Also, Catalan is an S tier card in this matchup. Definitely recommend spamming a lot of Catalans in this matchup, but be careful if they have a Dark Pact pet. That is pretty popular. Next up, Life. Now, Life is a bad matchup for Storm. And now, if you've listened to this entire video, you're probably like, Liam, you said almost every school was a bad matchup for Storm, and yeah, I mean you're right. That is the truth of the matter. Now a good life will always beat a good Storm with this current build of the game right now. That is the reality of the situation because of stats right now, how uh with respect to the devs, how lackluster they have been with distributing the stats lately with their Rochambeau. Life will always beat Storm if it's a good life. And if Life's Storm Ward, it is quite literally, I mean this, literally impossible to beat a Life if they're warded and a good player. This is a bad matchup because the Life can hit and heal and do the same value as your Ahsoka basically, but then have 4,000 more health than you and upwards to 20% more resist. So your DPP difference, which I think is about like 30 to 40%, gets completely thrown out the window because the Life has like, I don't know, 30% more health and then 20% more resist. So you're actually like negative 10% in the gutter when you're supposed to counter them. Again, this is a stat problem. This is KingsIsle giving Life resist when they're not supposed to have it. And then Life obviously has a crap ton of hidden heals that aren't really counterable. If you try to counter them, you just die. So it's kind of a tough matchup. I'm not gonna lie, but what I found with this one is just really take your time, really try to wait out the braces, you know, bubble the brace away, really try to get a nice elf in, get a nice combo going, and try not to give them anything better than an unbuffed caterpillar. And just really take your time with it and then pounce on the given opportunity when you can. And then that's really all you can do against a Life, to be honest. If you try to trade with them, you will lose. You just really have to be smart, not give them good hits, set yourself up, and then just go absolutely crazy with burst damage. And that's all you really can do on a Storm against a Life. Now, last up, we have mirror matchups. Now, I'm probably the most comfortable talking about this one because I have not lost a mirror matchup in 2 months. Well, actually, that's a lie. I lost my first mirror matchup today in 2 months because I just absolutely deck filled and my opponent was acting like I didn't have any hits because I was streaming. But basically, my point is here, I have a very good idea on how to beat mirror matchups, and I kind of have my own formula with this, which you know, I don't really want to share, but I'm gonna try to share it as much as possible for the sake of the video. Basically, in this matchup, it is very linear. You stun block, you blade, you aura, right? Whoever goes first or second does have a pretty big role in who wins the match, in my opinion. But a lot of this time, you have a lot of things to think about. An early Triton, if they blade in Triton, an early Clanker, and some random ass Catalan, you know, a random King Artorias. There's a lot of variables going on, so you need to keep track of a lot in this matchup, or like a bladed catch of the day, and then a catch of the day blade into like a Clanker hit early game will do like 70% of your health bar, right? So there's a lot of variables, and this is a tough matchup, and that's probably why people lose to me a lot, is because I'm like a big nerd in terms of story. I mean, I kind of just keep track of everything, and there's so much to keep track of that people can't. But basically, my recommendation here would be to obviously just blade, stun block, maybe shield, maybe aura, right, early on. Try to be the one to hit first. It's not always the case. If you hit first, you win or lose. It's not always the case in this matchup. You can hit second and win if you play well, and your opponent ends, you know, overextends themselves. And that is something I'm going to recommend, is do not overextend yourself, and then play a lot of mirror matchups, you know, whether it's with your buddy, your friend. You know, if I'm with Hunter here and, you know, we're homies, you know, we could go to the guild house or PvP house and play each other and just really get like a feel for all the combos, like, you know, Stormwing, Catalan, Catch of the Day, Levy, you know, Triton, Clanker. There's a lot of combos that can go on. So I'd recommend just playing a friend and getting a lot of experience in this matchup, and then you can carry that over to ranked, and that will help you, you know, keep your brain firing on all cylinders to keep track with what the hell is going on, basically. Because that's really all it is. I feel like it's a panic fest for both sides of it, and people really crack under pressure, and there's so much stuff going on, there's so much damage, so much threats, you know. But at the end of the day, if you stay calm and keep track of everything that is going on, and you play well and very one-dimensionally in this matchup, you will win most of the time. Again, I only lost once within 2 months to an absolutely insane deck fail, which was probably below 1% chance, but you know, it happens. It happens, right? But yeah, I think that's everything I gotta say for the video, y'all. It seems to be a really long video, so I don't know. My mouth seems tired. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you have any feedback, let me know in the comments down below. I look forward to reading it, and again, a like and a sub is appreciated if it was helpful at all. And yeah, I hope this video does well, and if it does, I will definitely do another school, probably like fire next, maybe death next. But again, I want y'all to tell me what's next in the comments below, and thank you for watching. I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for being here, and take care, y'all.